Welcome to the new season of the Dreams Portal, the podcast about dreams, dream interpretation, astral traveling, and lucid dreaming. Join your hosts, Ileana, Helen, and Abby, to talk about the meaning of your dreams. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Dreams Portal podcast. This one is a special one because it ties into the episode of collaboration and communication in dreamspace that Helen and I did a few weeks ago. And something that we want to bring you is an actual session from an experienced healer, which happened to be one of our hosts, and how to do this communication, consultation, and healing with an actual client from the moment that appointment is booked and she identifies this is a good candidate for that kind of treatment all the way to the end. So here with us is today, Ebby Salidas. Thank you, Abby, for being here with us and sharing this live, real life case.
Hello, Ileana. Thank you for the invitation. I want to start off by saying, and I think we've said this before on the dream portals, is that saying, life is but a dream?
Yes.
We are living in a dream state. It is a constant dream state. So there really isn't a big difference between what we do, what we think we're doing in our waking state, although brain waves do detect that we're in a different level of consciousness, and when we're dreaming. So that said, it's very easy to move between those thin layers. And I think that if those who have the ability to visualize so easily, because believe it or not, there's a lot of people who cannot visualize. Ask somebody
Yeah,
to close their eyes and picture an elephant, and they really can't.
that's true.
Um, but there are some people that it comes very easily to. And for those, I wouldn't want to discourage those who aren't keen on visualization. You can work on that and develop it. No, that's not a problem. But for those who are really interested in working through their dreams and all that, start doing it in your waking state. As you walk through your life in your conscious awareness, what would that look like if you were in a dream? Because the symbolisms are still there,
Yes.
the synchronicities are still there. So when you go through your day and you're like, oh my God, what kind of day did I have? What the heck happened here? Look at the symbolisms, and it's no different than you dissecting a dream. So that said, what I do, you wanted to know how I know when a candidate for me, when a client is coming to me, and they're a good candidate for that. I have to say, children are the easiest, or so
Always.
they're yeah, children are the easiest, as well as sometimes, and this is a little harder for people to wrap their heads around because they're like, well, they're in a comatose state, so you can't get confirmation. That
Mm.
is true, but there are times when the person is in and out of consciousness, in and out of the awareness. They're not really sure if what they're seeing is real or not. If you can jump into that person's in between state of dreamlike, a lot of times when they become conscious and do speak, I usually, when I run into them, will tell them, give this to your caretaker or whoever's taking care of you. Say this, because then inevitably that person will get a hold of me and say they were talking about strawberries for some reason, and I will tell the caretaker ahead of time. I'm going to ask them, I'm going to give them a word or give them an object. When they come back to you with that, then we made a connection. So
Mm-hmm.
I like to do that a lot. The foundation of how I learned all this is I'm a big believer in the Silva method. Very, very big
Yes.
believer in it. I've been doing it since the late 80s, and I encouraged a lot of people to take the course. And I use it all the time. And especially if you want to get into dreaming, that's an excellent way to learn, because there's silver exercises where you count backwards, and you got to learn how to get your left brain out of the way, because as you're working with your right side of the hemisphere of your brain, your other side is constantly correcting you and telling you that's not accurate, that's not true. So you want to be able to get some sort of a rhythm, get some sort of a routine going where that is happening. And commitment, the
Yes.
commitment of getting a good night's rest. If you're going to be going to bed, the time between your waking state and you falling into a deep sleep, that alpha state is when you're going to jump into the dream. So going back, so I like working when there's an issue with children, or if there's a situation where somebody is not very well. And I'm not talking about anything with mental health issues. I won't do that. But if somebody is, for instance, in hospice, or is in a very ill state, physically ill,
Hmm.
if they would like me to jump in and get a message, or get some more information, I can do that. Um, but pretty much anybody can do this. It's a lot of fun. Those of you who have friends, that you like to use some of these metaphysical skill sets, I encourage you to think about where you're going to meet up, and go to bed, relax, do your meditation, your breathing, and just before you start drifting off to sleep, set the intentions of where you're going to meet up,
Hmm.
set the intentions with what you're going to wear, what you're going to be doing. And then what I like to do is, after I do these things, I usually, when I wake up, um, will write it down. I'm more proficient, so I like to write it down and email. I like to email it to myself. So that way, when a client asks me or calls me for a result, if they see me in the dream, they sent me an email, and now I have a timestamp, a timestamp of what I saw, how I saw, and all of that. Another thing is, let me give you a couple of examples.
Yes.
Um, okay, so a couple of the examples that I've done is, let me see, there was one situation where a mother and a son, they're close to me. Both of them they're dream masters, but they were very reluctant in working with their dreams.
Mm.
So we made a decision. The three of us were going to meet in Seattle at the fish market.
Okay.
So that's what we were going to do. So and I got there, and mm, I decided to wear high top fishing pants, and they were bright yellow, the kind that are like rubbery.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Like you
so
were working in a
fish.
fishing boat.
So I had a pair of yellow ones on with the suspenders and a big yellow hat, and I
Hmm.
stood outside. And I saw the mom, the mother and the son. I saw the mom walking around, and she was wearing a dress, and she was across the street and wasn't crossing the street. And then I saw her son. He was about 18 years old. And
Hmm.
he was across the street, and he saw me and took off running in the opposite direction.
Oh, wow.
So I wake up and I write all this down. And then I get a hold of him, and I said, "What did you see?" Well, the mom said she got there, she saw me, she saw I was wearing something ridiculous in yellow, but she couldn't figure out how to cross the street. There was something where she couldn't cross the street. The boy said he saw me also, and he saw that I was in yellow, but he got so scared that he saw me, that it worked, that he took off running. So
Oh,
I
wow.
sent them both the email, which showed I saw both of them, and he had taken off running. So when you can bring these things together with people, and you have that shared experience, it becomes easier for them to wrap their minds around. A real simple method also in recalling your dreams is get a glass of water when you go to bed and drink half the glass of water, holding it with your fingertips.
Mhm.
And you're going to set your intentions in that water because water is alive. You're
Yes.
going to set the intention that you're going to drink half the water and you're going to have a dream. And the intention is blank. I'm going to go to Seattle, or I'm going to go visit my grandmother, or I'm going to go visit a sibling or a friend, and we're going to meet up. Okay, set the intention, drink half the glass, go to sleep, and then when you wake up, before you do anything, don't go to your phone, don't do any of that. Do the same thing with the fingers and say, I will now recall my dreams and drink the other half of the water. And
Hmm.
it's like when you do that and you do that practice of doing that, you will, your brain will automatically get you there. Like the Silva method, after you've learned it and mastered it, you can literally jump into a dream just doing this,
Yeah.
just jump right in. And I love that. I love the whole practice of it because it's so simple.
I want to go back to this experience with the mother and son in your
Hmm.
dream. Was this a typical customer of yours, or you were just using this as a teaching moment? Because the reason I'm asking is if they were going with the intention to work on something other than the learning experience, there appears to be some resistance from both of them. In one, the inability to cross the street to meet you, and the other running away because of fear. That's an easy one. But if this was a customer that is looking for a specific solution to any problem, how how did that plays out? Do
Well,
you go
first
into
of all,
another session?
yeah, exactly. Because you can't, I don't expect them, if they've never done anything like this before,
Oh, it was
to
the
be
first
able
time?
to be able to step right in. You got to kind of get your bearings and see. Another technique is when you're in a dream state. Anybody try this? Anybody out there? When you're in a dream state and you're aware that you're dreaming, look at the palm of your hand. Look at your hand and then look at your dream. Okay. So right now, let's say I see you in my dream. I'm going to look at my hand and then I'm going to look at you. And what that does is it's, uh, I don't know if it's Native American or what, but somebody taught me that technique. And I don't remember if it was in the Silva method but I feel like somebody else taught me that technique. And what it does for me when I have animals in the dreams, or if there's severe conflict, I can look at my palms and look at it, and it'll start like a wave will go through, and I can hear, even though the animal's not talking, I can hear their thoughts.
Mhm.
So I will know what they're representing. I can look at a conflict and hear the people that are having the conflict. It's like I can hear them talking in their minds.
Mm.
So because your dreams are all symbolism,
Mhm.
and they're symbolisms for me to take in. So if there's a conflict, or if there's a problem where somebody's in a car and they have 3 flat tires out of 4, doing what I do, that's easy. For me, it's like the person has a hard time
Moving
moving from
forward.
moving forward. Their creativity is being stuck because the number 3 out of 4, maybe they're scattered or what they can't, all those things, right? Because we
Mhm.
use everything we can get. But I can literally then, if I look at my hands and see the person getting out of the car or walk up to the driver, it's almost like you're reading their minds. So these are techniques that and I also love using it when I do health scanning, because a lot of times when I talk to a person in the 3D world, okay, what is it that's going on? And I can do energy healing on them. I can do those things, but I can get to the root of the actual issue if I have permission to jump into their dream, because otherwise they're giving me just the layer,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I twisted my ankle a few years back, or I never
Yes.
recovered from this. And it's all 3D. It's not the real root of the issue. And I can actually sit down with them and get to the root of it.
Well, sometimes the person is not aware that there's something deeper
Exactly.
because in the
Exactly.
waking hours and in their physicality, what is getting the attention and all the suffering is the physical
Hmm.
condition going on. And
Exactly.
the concept that energy is all there is still hard to embrace for many people. They're not going to believe that some intangible is going to cause that nasty bruise or broken bone or swelling or miserable pain they're experiencing. So it's it's a layer there that is hard to remove because it's tangible. It's tangible
You know,
versus intangible.
exactly. Exactly. And it's like when you go to a doctor and the doctor says, "How are you?" For some reason, you think he's really just greeting you and you say, "Oh, fine," but you're there for a reason,
Exactly.
So we kind of do that. But so there was that. And then right now I'm working with a team of people, and where somebody's doing the energetic work, somebody's doing the portal work on it. We're combining astrology with it, but I'm still finding that the using the tool of dream mastery is really helping.
Yeah.
And we're really working a lot with people who are in hospice. Right now, we have a few people, I prefer to call them guests instead of clients. We have a few guests that we're using our different modalities to understand what is going on. Sure, they're in hospice, but what is there something we can do to ease their, for lack of a better word, their it's already a stressful situation,
Yes.
but and how can if I can reach them in another dimension in a dream state and have a conversation with them,
Yes.
what can we do to make this exit smoother for you? What is it that you need from us? And what we've been doing is some of those things. And as soon as we get better and better at it, we're trying, the word is getting out that we're doing this. So we're getting other people, but we're trying to keep it right now at a size where we can really give that one-on-one attention, because a lot of people forget, yes, there's the guest who's in hospice, but the caretakers take on so much,
Yes.
so there you go. But I'm finding that the dream mastery is what has been really working very well for me, and I'm able to connect with the guest and get their attention better in that state, because they're comatose or they're delirious or they have dementia in this state, and I can get better answers when I meet up with them in the dreamscape. Yeah.
Can you give us an example of a recent case that you have worked completely in dream space?
Well, I don't want to talk about our current ones, but I did have one a few years back
Mhm.
that was very interesting, because um, a lot of people tend to think that people aren't passing on until they see someone, oh, they're waiting for that one brother, they're waiting
Mm.
for that one
Mm,
sibling, and or they have unfinished business to do. We all have unfinished business. We
that's
all have
true.
something, right? But I thought it was really interesting when I was talking to this person, and they had dementia, and I was talking to this person, and every now and then they would come in and out of an awareness, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna it doesn't do me much good to go face to face with them. So I told the daughter that I would meet up with them in a dream thing. And I always like to first sit on a bench where I know they're going to pass me by. And after a while, they'll get used to seeing me in this state. And then maybe I'll wave next time, or maybe I'll say hi next time. And because
Mm-hmm.
we're dreaming, I can
Mm-hmm.
repeat it. I don't need to wait for the next night for them to take a dream. I can repeat it over and over. I can loop us. And then eventually what'll happen is eventually I'll invite them to sit next to me. And then we just have a conversation.
Mm.
But I love it. I absolutely love it if they beat me in the dream and they're sitting on the bench first. And
Oh,
then they
wow.
see me and then they pat the bench. Like, come here, you can sit here because they got used to me,
Yes,
you
yes.
know?
And
So
they're
I,
open now.
and now they're open. So it takes some time to do that, but it doesn't take 3D time because I can loop the dream over and over and over. So there's a few times where I don't like where my own dreams are going, and I'm trying to work with someone. So I have to get out of the dream, then jump back in the dream and start it over. And I find it funny that I can do that when it's their dream. It's not
W-
even my dream. Like
So, what
let's
is an
say that
example of that?
okay,
Because
so it would
I
be
can
okay
picture
now.
a situation that you are
Okay,
not. Oh,
okay. So I had the person I was starting to tell you about. They were in a car accident. Okay, they're in a car accident, and they were like very. They had a concussion. They weren't in a coma, but they had a concussion.
mm,
So I went to the hospital, and you know how sometimes we go there and do minor energy work,
yeah.
just something to relieve peace. Well, while I was there sitting there, I was like, okay, I felt very sleepy. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to doze a little bit. And before I knew it, I fell asleep. And I fell asleep in the chair in the hospital. And the next thing I knew, him and I were in a dream. And
Mm.
that's actually probably when I started doing this, is because I'm like, I just found myself there and I was asking him, did you turn the wheel on purpose? Because he was in a car accident. And he's
Oh,
like, I thought about it, but I didn't. And I'm like, you know what? I believe you. If you tell me you didn't. And then in my mind, I'm like, why are we having this conversation? So when I came out, when I woke up, I just said I had a dream that I was in the car with him, and he was telling me that he thought about going, hitting the the wall, but he didn't mean to do it on purpose, because his mother said he had been going through a lot, and he was a cousin, so she was concerned he did something on purpose. And I'm
okay.
like, no, he didn't do it on purpose, but he did think about it. So when we were hanging out, I asked him, I said, I had this dream when I was in your hospital room, and he goes, that's so funny you say that because I felt like somebody was there with me and I was alone in the car. And it's because I looped it again. I brought it back to rewind it. I,
Oh,
I just, you know what? There's nothing you can't do with dreams. I just
yes.
love
Yeah,
dreams. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
They're a lot of fun.
So you loop it because you didn't like
I
where the
looped it.
conversation was going, or
I wanted him, how if I was to say to you, well, what did you think of something that happened a little bit earlier? You would have to think, well, how did I feel about that? But if he's in the car just before he had an accident, and I can bring that dream to right before the accident, I'm in the car with him. And now
oh,
I can say, did you think about hitting this wall? You know, yeah. It was a weird time. For a while there, I was having a lot of car accident dreams.
so
I was
that was your feeling that not liking what you were finding out.
well, it wasn't that I didn't like it. I sometimes it feels imposing,
Oh,
It's so I don't jump in dreams unless I have permission, you know.
oh. Oh, I see what you're saying now,
Yeah,
because that
yeah,
happened like a completely spontaneous event, nor a deliberate intention of
Right. Yeah.
collaborating.
Yeah.
So
Where I had it all set up, where I had it, that was my intention to do it.
I see, I see. In another case that I don't want to go to the cases of end of life transitioning, I want to bring it to uh, younger people or things that appear to be a problem. How have you worked on cases of people that are having problems that can change their lives in a negative way, and you've been able to help them in dream space, let's say problems like addictions, which is something that now people are getting more open to treat
mhm.
in an altered state of consciousness, but years ago, not so many. Have you worked with clients with the
I won't.
understanding that you're going to do that?
No, I won't do that. I'll give them tips on how to help themselves and how to
Okay.
work through the dream themselves. But I prefer to not be in a dream with somebody who may be struggling with addiction or depression
That's
because I just don't want,
interesting.
yeah, because I don't want to be, it's their dream.
Mhm.
So it's their demons. I prefer not to be, it's like walking into a house that has a lot of poltergeist activity. I
Oh,
would just prefer not to. I can help clear it from a distance, but I'm not going to put myself in there. You know,
in that energetic storm.
yeah, exactly. And that's a good way to put it. But I'll give them
Oh,
tips because your dreams are your way to connect with your mental state,
mhm.
to clear up, right? Here's your mind. Your mind is trying to send you messages and communicate with you on how to move you into a better state of being always. Or it's bringing things to your awareness that are making you uncomfortable for you to work through them, right?
Yes.
I prefer not to be in the dream then if that is what they're going through, you know. But I can give them tips and exercises on what to do with that, you know. It's amazing though to me that I find that especially the older people that have dementia,
Mhm.
they're so much easier. Like when you find them in a dream state, so much easier to work with. They're so agreeable and so like open because I think I don't know what it is. Their resistance is so low, you
That's
know?
interesting that you mentioned that, because my next question was going to be how a client with that kind of energy situations of depression or addictions is different from a client that is experiencing dementia, Alzheimer, or
Well, don't you think that it's more of if I had an addiction, that's going to be my low vibration is in a constant loop
mhm,
over something that has so much control over me.
yes.
Whereas dementia, I have no, do I really have that much attachment to low vibration? Because I may not even be aware of my life situation or if I have a partner or, you know what I mean? My life status of what's going on with me is kind of oblivious. It's not such a worry to someone in that state as opposed to somebody who has depression or addictions. They're constantly focused on the things that don't feel good to them.
And on the things that they perceive are going
That,
to make them feel better, the fix, whatever that fix is
and
going
that
to
they
be.
need it, and their lack of it is causing them so much distress. Yeah.
And higher resistance. I can see that. And there are some schools of thought that might say that dementia is basically an early checkout while you're still carrying an able body, an able physical body. That's a
You know,
theory. I
yeah, I
I
heard that
cannot
theory.
say.
Yeah, I heard that theory too. I don't know if I go with that. And I have talked to a few other psychics on that to get their opinion. And if you think about how, yeah,
I don't really align with that, but I can see why people think it.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. So, how many sessions is going to take for a client that you need to work entirely in dream space for whatever the reasons? Like, and again, I have two kind of opposite examples from your experience, which is the mother and son, and
Mhm.
the other one, the patient with dementia, because the mother and son are aware of the resistance and how they express it. How fast did that evolve? Going to that case specifically.
That one was funny because I was making a point to them how easy it is to do it. And they,
Mhm.
as soon as they saw the three of us were there, because she saw her son, she saw me. The son saw me, the son saw his mother, and it freaked him out.
Mm.
So it was not a thing that we were going in there to work on it, anything. It was just a situation I was setting up to show them how easy it was to do that.
It
So
was an exercise.
it was an exercise. It was a play date, and but it freaked them out. And whereas I don't think I do anything like, okay, we're going to need 3 sessions for you to get over this fear, Ileana, blah, 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 blah.
Mhm.
I just go in to look around to see if there's something out of place that I can bring to your awareness,
Oh, that's
you
interesting.
know,
If there's something out of
out of
place
place.
that
Yeah.
you can bring to the client's awareness, how
Hmm.
do you, in that energetic space, how do you sense that something is out of place for that
Okay,
person?
here's
Because you can find 1,000 things out of place with me, or somebody who doesn't know me. So
well,
that's an interesting distinction.
yeah, it is. Like one of the dreams that I was walking around, I said, okay, I'm going to step into your dream, have the intention of let's meet at your house. Well, obviously, it's a dream. So
Mhm.
it's her house, but the house may not necessarily be how, and it wasn't like the house she lives in. And I noticed when I was walking around, there were a lot of walls. So her house was half the size of the house in the dream, but there were a lot of walls and there were a lot of doors, hardly any windows, doors and walls. And so when I came back out, I asked her, do you feel that you don't open the doors to opportunities? Do you feel that you have so many walls up? I mean, a regular house has some walls, obviously, right? The four and then a couple in the middle. This had so many walls.
Like a
And I'm like,
labyrinth.
yeah. And to me, it was like she has her walls up, the door shut, very little windows. So she doesn't like people looking in on her. She doesn't like to be seen.
Or
How
she
many
doesn't like to look out.
that too, she doesn't want to look out at what she's missing. But I saw it more as you have all these doors, but none of them are open. So
Mm.
what opportunities? And that's how it's something that simple, you know. Or I've been in dreams where there's a lot of food all over. In every room, there's all this food, and this person is preparing, always in the kitchen. So here's somebody who likes to feed people. She gives of her heart, but I didn't really see hardly anybody in the house eating this food.
Mm.
So who's she do, So you know what movie I absolutely love? And if you're squeamish or you guys don't like the audience doesn't like um kind of scary things, I love the movie The Cell with Jennifer Lopez, because in the movie, have you seen it? In the
No.
movie, she goes into a dream, and that's her specialty. She
Mhm.
goes into the dream to help a child. Well, they
Oh.
find out she can do these things. So they have her jump into the dream of a serial killer in order to save his last victim. So here she is in the dream with the serial killer, and he's there as a child first. And then his other archetype, the serial killer, is also there. And it's kind of like that. Not as dark as that, obviously, but it's
Mhm.
kind of like moving around like that.
Yes. And last season, episode 7 with Jamie Darrow, when we were talking about Dream Master Astral Traveler, that issue of permission or going into somebody else's dream, we chat about that a little bit because I have said this before. I used to have the limiting belief that there are spaces you don't go into uninvited and privacy and things like that. And Jamie clarified that there's no such a thing in that space because you are never going to get in a space that you don't have that previous agreement or
If you
that
can,
pact
yeah, you won't be
at
able to
that
get in.
level. You
Yeah,
will never get in.
right.
This material thing of permissions, trespassing, or privacy doesn't apply in that space because in that space, that agreement has been set.
I agree with that, and I live by that. But when you're talking to clients,
Oh, that's a different
yeah, you're talking to
mindset.
clients, you want to respect and get their permission. It's
Yes.
like throwing tarot cards.
Yeah, yeah.
Some people are like, I don't need anyone's permission to throw on my ex's cards, and stuff like that. And
Uh-huh.
I get it. But because otherwise you won't be able to do it, right? But
Absolutely.
in
But
the state of having a good relationship with your clients, you want to get their permission,
yeah, that's the ethical part of it.
Mm,
But the other thing
exactly.
is managing the resistance. As a practitioner, like myself, I had that limiting belief, that resistance, that privacy, trespassing, permissions apply when in reality a soul level is different,
Right.
and that
Exactly.
those dimensions are open. Is there are not those walls that you were talking about with
Exactly.
your client. So that is something that I try to emphasize in every episode of this podcast as much as I can, because we insist, because our brains have been wired that way to transfer what we have in the physicality to those planes, and that doesn't apply. It's the other way around. As a matter of fact, it's as above, so below.
Exactly.
So we cannot carry this construct because what we're doing is keep building the resistance in a
Exactly.
space that is not designed to have any
And
resistance at all.
it's so much easier to do healing for
Yes.
people if you can go into their dream, because then I can put them on a table that moves like this and like that, and I can stand them up, I can put them on a platform, I can, again, that's something you learn in Silva. Some people call it the mind laboratory, the mental
Mm-hmm.
laboratory. I have an office, and in that office is every kind of healing device and modality that I need, and I have access to people dead or alive, there. So for me to bring that ethereal body into my workspace
Yep.
while they're in a dream state, it's just much easier.
Now I'm gonna ask this question because it's just popped in my mind. And it might sound crazy, but it popped for a reason. So being the dream space that is so easy to work and so clear in the results or the underlying causes that you'll find out. What do we do with people who cannot sleep?
Well, people who cannot sleep, I have to actually sit down and ask them 3D questions,
Mm-hmm.
because I had a discussion with a family member a while back, and she's like, I can't sleep. I wake up all the time
Mm-hmm.
at 3 a.m. on the dot.
Mm-hmm.
But when I pointed out to
Join the
her,
club.
yeah, but here's the difference. You've got to ask your clients or whoever, if you're in the audience and your family member or a friend is saying, I'm not sleeping, these are the questions I ask. What time do you go to bed? Well, this family member was going to bed at 7, 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, 10:30,
Yeah,
11:30,
it's time to
12:30,
wake up.
1:30, 2:30, 3:30. Wake up.
It's
See?
time to wake up.
So
Yeah.
I told her to stay awake longer. Another thing is some people, your brain is like a toddler. So you wake up just a little bit, wake up, you go to the bathroom or you do something, right? And the
Mhm.
first thing you do is you look at the phone. You tell yourself, I'm just going to check the time. But no,
Yes. No,
now the
don't do
light
that.
has activated your brain. And so your brain, being like a toddler, is like, let's see what else is on the phone. But if you were just to get up, go to the bathroom, get a drink of water, whatever you do, and tell yourself, I'm going back to sleep,
Mhm.
and just relax. And if you're not falling into sleep, meditate. Great time to meditate, and you
Mhm.
will fall asleep. Do that for, what is it? A habit is 21 days, something like that.
Yes.
Do that consistently, because the minute you think, "Ah, I'm just going to kill time and watch this on TV," if you
Oh
have a
God.
TV in your room, right? Or on your phone, anything that distracts you from the intentions of going to sleep, is it really that you can't sleep, or you've lost the control over your mind and now your mind is controlling you?
The stimuli of the 3D world,
Yes, yes.
which
Worry,
can
worry is
also
another one.
be, which can also be a way to express, to hide the fear of going into a sleep state.
Well, some of it, but some of it is also people who are obsessing, about bills, about money,
Oh,
their relationship,
life. Yeah.
this. I have so much to do at work. Did I do these things? Again, your mind is a toddler. Why are you even thinking of those things past 5 o'clock? The business hours are 8 to 5. I do not discuss any of those things after that time, and much
Well,
less as I'm going to sleep, because that you're putting all that in your brain. And when you wake
yeah.
up, that moment when you wake up and you're gone through alpha, that is such a, even Esther Hicks says that, that's a high vibration time. So
Yes.
you don't want to fill that time with the low vibrational thoughts. You don't have solution to your problems at that moment, and you don't have solutions before you go to bed. So instead, park them, give grace to yourself, relax yourself, practice good breathing, and go to and get a good night's rest.
Yeah.
Get a good night's rest, whether it be watching the food intake during that time. How many people eat poorly, and now each organ that's trying to digest is interfering with your sleep state.
Yeah. Because they need the energy and you
Right,
can reconcile the machinery in your body. Uh,
exactly.
even equipment works on a cycle and on a
Yes,
window. And
yeah.
we, like you said, that toddler mind wants to play with everything all the
Mhm.
time at the same time. So yeah,
Yes,
you got two good points. The sleep hygiene that many
yes,
physicians speak of. And second, the disorder of anxiety that is a modern day uh,
yeah,
pandemic for whatever the reasons. This is not the
yeah,
place to talk about that, but everything starts with a habit, and having your brain all the time wired in that kind of frequency, the beta frequency that Dr. Joe Dispenza speaks of, that chronic stress, that exercises, that toddler without control, is can prevent you from achieving your goals for rewiring your brain and
right.
change your vibration and your reality. And we spoke about that in a couple of episodes ago with Helen. So that is not good. There's nothing to fear in the dream space. I
Right,
think we need to
right.
start with the limiting beliefs about dream space. We know that many people have night terrors, nightmares. We had an episode last
Yeah,
season about
yeah,
that. But going back to something that Abby said at the beginning of this episode is use these techniques, let that be if your hand, or give yourself a signal that you are in dream space. And that does a lot of things to put your mind or your whole energy system at ease.
Right,
and give
because
you that night's sleep.
the minute you recognize, oh, I'm in a dream, you can look at it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I do love what I do, and I really love that I have this mastery of dreams because I get to spend time with my loved ones who are no longer here. I
Yeah.
have breakfast with my father pretty often. I just don't understand why he keeps going only to Denny's. Like we're always at a Denny's. And I know it was his favorite place to go to, but
There
I
you
just
go.
brought it up to him not too long ago. We can go anywhere. You keep picking Denny's, you know. But I love that people, whether they're alive or no longer with us, or people I don't see often, that I can always still connect with them at that level, you know.
Yes. And that's another good thing or good tool or good symbol to for people that have that trouble going to sleep. And again, check with your healthcare professional because it is important to have good sleep hygiene and to
It
change
is.
habits to be able to give that physical body is designed to have that rest to make the most of that time that you rest all your functions and other functions that start getting into play only when you go to sleep.
Right. Your organs, so important. So the peace of mind and your organs. And you know what else? It's also really good to do this is now it just jumped out of my mind. We discussed people who are no longer with us.
Mhm.
It escaped me. You had said something, and now it kind of jumped out.
Well,
Let's see.
that's also their energy. That also gives you an idea of how their energy is and how they present themselves to you. Because in traditional thinking, depending on the upbringing of the culture, people keep remembering their loved ones in the state of death. It's
Yeah.
such an imprinting. And
Yes.
at least the dream space gives you a window to see that
hmm
in reality, that was a moment in this physicality, and that vibration doesn't have to carry over. That is our impression of them.
You know, yes, exactly. I don't know if I've ever mentioned it on any of your podcasts, but my mother passed away in a car accident.
Yes.
And the car accident was right near our home. So you could literally at that time look out our kitchen window and look directly in that direction. And my brother at that
Wow.
time saw the ambulance and everybody, and he didn't realize that it was my car that was in the accident with her in it. So I remember during that week having dreams where I was standing at the tree, seeing my car wrapped around the tree, and I'm standing there looking at it, and my mother's standing outside of the car next to me
Mhm.
and saying, "It's going to be okay." And I'm like, "How can you say that? Look at this situation." And
Wow.
she goes, "It's going to be okay." So I think a lot of those things help me not be the in the traditional way of grieving and dealing with death, because
Yes.
in my so she was there so fast after her death that it was like, okay, I can reach out to her anytime I want.
Hmm.
Same thing with your guides. How many times
Yeah.
have you and I had talks where we went into a dream state and we call our guides around a table and say, "Who do you work for?"
Yours. I still have that ongoing thing. Looking for a gravy job. That's a gravy job right there.
Right?
Spirit guy. that's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
that's a topic for another session. But yeah, the belief is that you can contact your guys in dream space if they show up.
Yeah, yeah.
Jamie will say they always show up.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm sure I show up. But I mean, thank you so much for sharing these experiences with us and the audience. And for all of you out there, you can check in the website of this podcast all the contact information if you need to reach Abby for this type of consultation or this type of work if you're interested. check out her website, also Crowd Readings, and her YouTube channel. She's also on Instagram and in Facebook, and a regular host in this podcast. Thanks again, Abby, for being with us.
Thank you. Sweet
And,
dreams, everybody.
And stay tuned because our next episodes will be talking about the different steps of how each one of us step into the lucid dreaming state, because there's no such a thing as one size fits all.
Right.
Everybody's
Exactly.
different. So that is coming up with our regular host, Abby and Helen, and also our previous guest. I'm going to share this experience. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned. And until next time, sweet dreams.